So you have probably tried putting on the braces, using ice packs, using electrotherapy or exercises and the rest, but your knee pain keeps coming back the moment you try climbing up the stairs or trying to run or cycle. That's because the knee joint is almost not or never the source of the pain. It is just a middleman in between that is getting bullied by your hip joint and your feet. The knee joint is simply a hinge joint. All it wants to do is to go back and forth, to move forward and backwards. But if your hip is weak or your ankle is stiff, if your hip joint is weak or your ankle joint is stiff, then your knee joint is forced to twist and cave in or curve in to compensate. You can rub all the cream you want on the sore spot, but if you don't fix the mechanics, if you don't fix the biomechanics above and below it, you're just putting a band-aid on a structural leak. So what happens is that you can do all the treatment on the knee joint, but if the knee joint is never the source of the problem, then you are just wasting time. So having foundation in the biomechanics, today I'm going to show you why your knee pain is a symptom and how to identify the 3 hidden culprits that are keeping you in the cycle of injury. What makes your injury never to disappear? Number 1 is the hip drop disaster. So your knee goes where the hip tells it to go. The knee joint works in a system together with the hip joint and the ankle joint. So your knee will always go where the hip joint directs it to go. So if your gluteus medius muscle, that is the muscle that is found at the side of your hip joint, is weak, then your thigh bone will be able to rotate inward every time you take a step. So every time you take a step trying to walk, then your thigh bone will be able to rotate inward, and this puts a shearing force on the kneecap. This puts a shearing force on the kneecap or on the patella bone. So if you try standing on one leg in front of a mirror, if your opposite hip drops or your knee dives inward, then your hip is the real problem. We commonly call it the Trendelenburg sign. So what happens is that if you try standing in front of a mirror, then you raise or lift 1 foot upward, that is, you stand on 1 foot. If you notice a drop or a sag on one side, then that means that the problem within the knee joint is originating from the hip joint. You are having weakness in the gluteus medius muscle, the muscle that is responsible for the stabilization of the hip joint as you walk, as you climb the stairs, or as you run. Then number 2 is the ankle mobility block. So if your ankle joint can't bend, then your knee has to overwork. So what this means is that the ankle joint should be able to move forward and backward. So if you have a lock within the ankle joint, then your knee will be able to overwork more. So a simple explanation is that when you squat or go downstairs, your shin needs to tilt forward. Your shin bone needs to tilt forward. So if your ankle is stiff, if your ankle joint is stiff, usually from tight calf muscles, the tight calf muscles, or from the old strains that you had, then the knee has to move in a wobble to find a different path, and therefore this leads to irritation of the tendons. So if you try doing a wall touch test, that if you try touching the walls, so can you touch the knee to a wall from 4 inches away while you are heel lifting without lifting the heel? So try doing a wall touch test. So can you touch your knee to a wall from 4 inches away without without lifting your heels. Number 3 is the quad dominant strap. So most people are returning knee pain. Number 3 is the quad dominant strap. So most people with returning knee pain are using their quads for everything. They're using the quadriceps muscles for everything. So if you don't use the hamstring muscles, that is the muscles that are found behind your thighs, and your glutes, that is the butt muscles, to break when you walk, then your kneecap, that is the patella joint, will get slammed into the joint with every step. So you are basically overworking the quadriceps muscles. So when you sit down into a chair, reach your hips back further. If the knee go past the toes too early, then you are overloading the joint. So that is a practical advice, what you can use to tell that you are using your quads more than it should be used. So if you try sitting down into a chair and then you reach your hips back further, that is, if you try sitting, then reach your hips back further. So if your knees go past your toes too early, if your knees will be able to go past your toes too early, then it means that you are overloading the knee joint, and that is where the pain trap is coming from. Number 4 is the inflammation ghost. So sometimes your pain will return because you never actually finished the healing process of your knee joint. So once pain stops, people stop doing the rehabilitation process, but the weakness still will remain. So the moment you increase your activity, the quiet inflammation will flare right back up. So what happens is that most patients, especially post-operative, what they do is that once the pain stops, they will stop going for rehabilitation. But the weakness still remains. It is only the pain that has stopped. So the moment you try to increase the activity, the quiet inflammation will flare right back. It will come back and it will cause pain. So a practical advice for this is that you need to be pain-free for at least 2 weeks. At least 2 weeks of full activity before you consider the injury to be healed. So if you are undergoing rehabilitation process, ensure that in order for you to stop going for rehabilitation, always ensure that you have pain-free for at least 2 weeks after doing full range of motion, that is full range of motion and full activity before you consider your injury to be healed. So does your knee hurt more when you are going up or going down in the stairs? Tell me in the comments, and this one will help me know how to help you structure the overload principle when doing the exercise program. So to stop the cycle of returning knee pain, you need to start by focusing only on the knee. You need to stop focusing only on the knee. Always remember that the knee works as a system. The knee, the hip, and the ankle joint works as a system. That is why you need to understand the biomechanics of the knee joint. It works in coordination with the hip joint and the ankle joint, and that is why you should stop focusing only on the knee. Number 2 is that you need to build a lateral hip strength. Always ensure that your hip strength is you have a stronger hip. That is to ensure that you don't have weak gluteus medius. That is to ensure that you stop having the Trendelenburg sign. That is when you stand on one feet, then you have a swing or a slug on the opposite side. So you need to build the lateral hip strength. Number 3 is that you need to restore your ankle range of motion. Ensure that your ankle joint is not locked, that your ankle joint is able to move up to the full range of motion. Then number 4 is that you need to learn to use your gluteus muscles as your primary shock absorbers and not your knee joint. So don't let your knees dictate your life. Don't let your knees dictate your life. with pain that never heals. So if this helped you realize why your old injury keeps flaring up, then ensure that you share this with anyone who needs it. Anyone who needs it. So you should always move with purpose, and I'll see you in the next.